to welcome to New York a governor that has been out there fighting for freedom, not just in her home state of South Dakota, but all over the United States of America. You know, we have some states like New York where our kids maybe didn't go to school for a whole year. And on Wednesday, what do you know, they actually are going to get to take their masks off for the first time. And I will say that now that I get to travel outside of our state a little bit as a member of the RNC and see how other people are living their lives in the age of COVID, you see that you don't have to show your papers to go into restaurants. It's an amazing thing. There's actually free states that allow you to live your life, to allow you to enjoy the freedoms that we're entitled to under the U.S. Constitution.
USA!
That's right, USA.
USA!
God bless America.
God bless America.
We are very lucky to have with us tonight, to be our featured speaker of this convention dinner, the great governor of the state of South Dakota, Kristi Noem. Give her a really warm New York welcome.
Good evening, New York. Oh my goodness, you guys are wound up. Thank you for having me. I mean, did everybody in the back of the room get your steak yet? You did get it? Okay, fantastic. That was wonderful food, wasn't it? Let's give a round of applause to the staff. Your steak is almost as good as our South Dakota steak. So, thank you so much. You know, we all have a connection. Did you guys know that New York has a connection to South Dakota? You have someone here that grew up a part of the elite class, lived in luxury, one of the select few. And then you sent him west and we toughened him up, Mr. Teddy Roosevelt. And then we sent him back out here to lead after we toughened him up out west. Thank you for Theodore Roosevelt and his leadership. It's fantastic. So I just wanted to come and share a few thoughts with you, and I don't know if you guys know much about me, but I'm a farmer and a rancher from South Dakota. So being in politics is very, very different for me and my family. But I got talked into running for the legislature and for running for Congress, and it was because other people asked me to. One of the things that you're seeing here in this county is that people are stepping up and running, and many of you asked them to run. In fact, in Nassau County, you swept every county-wide race this last election cycle. Absolutely inspirational. Absolutely inspirational. And what's important is that people step up and run, but what's even more important is that people help them. And that's what you're doing tonight by supporting your state party, is that you are supporting those candidates that put their neck on the line, their name on the line, their family on the line, because listen, this country, we're playing for keeps now. We're playing for our freedom. There has never been a more important fight that you've ever been a part of than right now supporting this New York Republican Party and being engaged with your time, your effort, and your money to make sure that we get Republicans. You need a Republican governor. Your governor's been a mess. An absolute mess. So we've been all watching what's unfolding over in Ukraine, and our hearts and our prayers have been going out for the family and the children and the people of that country. The hell of war has come to their homes. And we have been thinking and praying for them and supporting them. And listen, we are seeing clearly every day play out in this world that leadership has consequences, that leadership matters. And because Joe Biden has been a weak president, we now see war coming to fruition across the globe. If he was a strong president, if we had a strong American president, we would put the Keystone Pipeline back online. So the Keystone Pipeline was coming directly through the state of South Dakota. What most people don't realize is that equipment is still sitting there, the pipe is laying across the state. All they had to do was come in and put it in the ground this year. And when day one, Joe Biden went into the White House and signed an executive order, all construction stopped and they walked away and left it. In fact, we had school districts counting on those property taxes. We had roads and bridges that were going to be supported by the revenue that came in from that pipeline. We were going to be more energy independent in this country because of that construction project, and it all stopped because of Joe Biden. If we had a strong president, we'd open up our federal lands to drilling again. We would cut regulations. We would cut the oil and gas industry. We would prioritize American families first. And we would make sure we're working with our European allies to get Russia excluded out of SWIFT and make sure that we are marketing to our European allies our energy. Did you know that every single day the United States buys $53 million worth of energy goods from Russia? The United States purchases 22 million barrels of oil from Russia every single month. Is it not insane? Insane that we would do that when we have more resources than any other country on the globe to be energy independent? That's the madness of what's happening in the Biden White House. But I'm going to share with you right now a little bit about that leadership that I referenced. I'm going to tell my story, a little bit about some of the decisions that we made in South Dakota. And frankly, if you all were going to be honest, let's have an honest conversation right now. You had no idea who I was 18 months ago, did you? You'd never heard the name of Kristi Noem before. In fact, probably the first time you heard my name was when the liberals were busy kicking me in the head every day for the decisions that I was making in South Dakota. Right? Rachel Maddow, Elizabeth Warren, night after night after night on the national news, calling me reckless, irresponsible, that I was dangerous because of what I was doing in our state. But I want you to know something. My people are happy. And they're happy because they're free. I grew up on a ranch in South Dakota. My dad was a cowboy. So he was tough. In fact, he woke us kids up every single day by yelling up the stairs, "Get up! More people die in bed than anywhere else." I don't even know if that's true. I remember being a little girl laying in bed saying, "Is that true?" But we worked all the time. He was amazing. I think the best gift that my parents ever gave me is that they gave us impossible things to do. Listen, we are crippling our children in this country. And we are crippling our children by doing everything for them. When I was 12 years old, my dad put me in a semi. We were driving down the road and he said, "Listen, take this thing home and make the corners wide," and he jumped out the door. I remember when I got 7 miles home into the ranch, I didn't even know how to stop it. I turned the engine off and it drifted to a stop and I thought, I can't believe I lived. And the next second I thought, I bet I can drive anything now. But see, that's what, by giving us impossible things to do every day, he turned us into problem solvers. He gave us the opportunity to face a challenge, to solve it, and then when we did, to give us the confidence to think we could take on even more. I'm going to ask you to start giving your kids and your grandkids impossible things to do. They need to go through challenges. It will make them problem solvers. It will give them the confidence to tackle what's coming at them in this world. We've got parents that think that they have to do everything for your children. I'm going to tell you that's the worst thing you can do for your kids. You're crippling them. Give them impossible things to do. It's the best gift that my parents gave me. When I got into college, my dad was killed in an accident on our farm. He was 49 years old. He was killed on March 10th, and it devastated our family. We had a large farming operation. We farmed about 12,000 acres. We had a cow-calf operation, a lot of feedlots, a lot of different businesses. He was always working all the time, and when he died, it devastated us. And I didn't even know how we'd get through the next 24 hours, much less the next 24 years, and a lifetime without him. I ended up becoming the general manager of all the businesses. My older sister was living in Georgia. my older brother in Oklahoma, my younger brother was still in high school, so I came home, quit college, and took over all the businesses. A couple months after Dad died, I got a letter in the mail from the IRS that said we owed death taxes, estate taxes. At that time, the estate tax rate was 55%. So if you can imagine, like a lot of small businesses and a lot of farmers and ranchers, we had a lot of land and a lot of machinery and cattle, but we didn't have any money in the bank. And I had to take out a loan to pay off those taxes, but it took me 10 years. It made it very difficult for us to keep that business. I got angry. I could not believe the federal government had a law that when a tragedy happens to a family, that you were faced with losing your family business. So I started to show up at meetings. People ask all the time how I got into government and politics. It was from that. At that time, the U.S. Senate Majority Leader was Tom Daschle. Do you remember him? From South Dakota. Everybody always thinks South Dakota is so conservative. It's really not all that conservative. It's populist. We're the home of George McGovern, Tom Daschle. I beat a Democrat when I ran for Congress. There was still a U.S. Senator from South Dakota just a few years ago. In fact, I won my last governor's race by only 3 points against a Bernie Sanders guy. So it's, you think there's a lot of differences between New York and South Dakota, not so much. But you have to talk to the people. But that's how I got involved in government and politics. Got to our state legislature, ran because we needed somebody good, got there, was there about a week and saw that leadership controlled everything. So I ran for leadership. Was the assistant majority leader, ran for Congress in 2010 and won against an incumbent Blue Dog Democrat who had a 70% approval rating. So go get them, people that are running in tough races. Had the chance to work with President Trump on tax reform, which I spent 2 years working on. Served on the Armed Services Committee, worked on a lot of national defense issues. But I was sitting in Congress working on policy and had the chance to do some big things while I was there. But I decided to run for governor because governors are CEOs. Governors get the chance to get up every single day and make decisions that impact families, to set an agenda and see it accomplished. So I decided to run for governor based on building stronger families, because I see and think that a lot of the things we see that are challenges in this country are because of the breakdown of the family. And I don't care what your family looks like. I just want you to be strong. I think our kids need to grow up with support. But I also ran and said this throughout my campaign, that South Dakota could be an example to the nation. I believed that we were small, we didn't have that many people, we could do things that other states couldn't do. We could be a pilot project for a lot of the conservative reforms that we talk about it and really prove that it worked. I had no idea that our opportunity to be an example to the nation was going to happen because of a pandemic. In South Dakota, we've always had a good business structure, but right now in South Dakota, we don't have an income tax, no corporate income tax, we don't have a personal property tax. All we have in South Dakota is a 4.5-cent sales tax. I wanted to, you're all moving, aren't you? You're packing your suitcases right now. The plane's big, you can all come. Yeah, it's a fantastic state. So I was going to build on that, recruit businesses and industries to come. Listen, I think I did in this pandemic what every other governor did in this country. We spent hundreds of hours on the phone on conference calls as governors talking. I just think that at the end of the day, that other governors got scared. That the politics of it got to them. They let fear control them. Listen, in this pandemic, we learned that the media will use fear to control people, and that the liberals will use fear to promote their agenda. And over and over again, I watched people across this country roll over and give up their freedoms. Listen, in South Dakota, I spent a lot of time listening to health experts, talking to researchers around the world. But I think I did something a little different than most of the other governors did. I also spent a lot of time with my general counsel, with constitutional attorneys. I wanted to understand what authority I had as a governor and what authority that I didn't have. Because I believe that when leaders overstep their authority, especially in a time of crisis, that's when you break this country. That's when you break this country and you lose it. And I didn't want to be the leader that did that. So for instance, in South Dakota, we never once closed a single business in the entire state. I didn't even define what an essential business was, because I don't believe governors have the authority to tell you that your business is essential. We never told anybody that they couldn't go to church. We never passed any mandates such as masks or anything else. I just told my people I was going to give them all the information that I had, and that I was going to let them use personal responsibility to make the best decisions for their family and also keep their businesses open and keep freedom. So let me tell you about South Dakota today. Today, South Dakota has the strongest economy in the entire country. Our GDP rate is at 9.5% in South Dakota. The second highest is Texas, which I love saying that we're beating Texas. They're at 7.5% growth. We have the least amount of jobs that were lost because of the pandemic, least amount of businesses that were closed because of the pandemic, least amount of hours that were lost by workers in the state and in the country during the pandemic, least amount of employees that were impacted because of the pandemic. Our kids were in the classroom every single day. We are number one in educational outcomes in the country. We have 10 times the rate of population growth in our state because hundreds and hundreds of businesses are moving to South Dakota, and thousands of people are picking up their families and moving to our state because they want to live somewhere that respects them. When the violence started across the country in different cities and you saw riots, it made me angry to see how our law enforcement were being treated. So I decided to do a national recruitment campaign to law enforcement officers and said, if you want to live somewhere where somebody respects you, somewhere that the community will wrap their arms around your family, then move to South Dakota. In 1 week, 900 law enforcement officers from 41 states picked up their families and said, I want to come and move to South Dakota. In the first week. We now have thousands of law enforcement officers from 49 states that have all moved their families to South Dakota just because they want to be somewhere where people respect them for the job that they do each and every day. We in our state have also seen not just businesses thrive and families thrive, we've also seen our mental health challenges go down. We've seen drug overdoses. Only 2 states had drug overdoses go down in the last year. One was New Hampshire, went down by 0.5%. South Dakota's drug overdoses went down by 16%. See, we just in South Dakota did what we as conservatives and Republicans have talked about for years. We've all talked about the values and principles that we embrace. We just did it, and we proved that it works. That's all we have to talk about in the next election, is what we do, what we believe brings hope, and it brings opportunity, and it brings success. And that's what we have to remind people. Keep it locally about what people are passionate about. Tell stories. Because those leaders, those governors, those people in those positions made decisions that devastated families and businesses or created an opportunity for them to be innovative, keep their doors open, and take care of their families. It's incredibly important that we never lose sight of the fact that leadership has consequences. That's why you guys need a new governor. And I'm going to do everything I can to help you get a new governor, because you need one. My good friend Lee Zeldin is here tonight, and I think he'd be a fantastic governor. We watched people in the United States roll over and give up their freedoms. Because the government told them they couldn't meet together, they gave up their freedom of assembly. Because the government told them they couldn't go to church, they gave up their freedom of religion. Because the government tells you you can't say something, you're giving up your freedom of speech. You watch what's happening in Ukraine, and it's inspirational to watch how people will fight for their freedom. And we have forgotten the precious gift that we've been given in this country. Just by being born here and living here, that we still live in the most amazing experiment in humankind, this government that we've been handed. In South Dakota, our state motto is "Under God, the people rule." And we proved that the last 2 years, that we truly do trust the people. And when you trust people, they will make the best decisions. And we need to make sure that we continue to focus on the fact that Teddy Roosevelt said that in the United States that the people are the government. We are the government. The government is nothing else except for the people. So I want to ask you for a couple of things. I'm going to leave you with a bit of a mission and a story. There's 3 things that I want you to do. Number 1, people are going to throw offenses out at you all the time. You live in a tough area. New Yorkers are tough, right? Pretty candid with each other, pretty honest. I had a pastor say to me years ago, he said, "Kristi, people are going to throw offenses out at you all the time. But you're the one who decides if you want to bend over, pick it up, and carry it around with you. But then you're the one carrying the burden." So you can make a choice every day when people say things to you and they throw out offenses, you can leave it lay and not be offended. Listen, you all need to get over yourselves. We've been so offended by people in our lives that we quit talking to each other.
Yeah.
We've quit talking to people because of politics. People in our families, people in our work, in our jobs, in our communities. Just let the offense lie. Start talking to each other. When you walk up to people and you have this conversation, start by listening. Nobody feels like they're being heard anymore. Walk up to someone and have a conversation with them and listen. And then share your thoughts on what you've seen go on in this country the last 2 years and why you need different leadership. So number 1, get over yourselves. All right? Start talking to people again. Number 2, I need you to say yes. People will always tell you that you're too busy, that you don't have time to do something, that you need to say no to more things. When I was pregnant with my first daughter, Cassidy, they had a baby shower for me. I remember at a lady's house, and all the ladies came, and it was fantastic. Which the other day I went to a baby shower again, and there was men there. And I don't know who decided that was a good idea. Because it totally ruined the baby shower. So guys, if you get invited to a baby shower, don't go. Okay? Stay home. The conversation totally changed. It wasn't fun. So anyways, at this baby shower, they went around the room and they asked everybody to give me some advice as a new mom. Tell Kristi something that'll be helpful as a new mom. I remember it got to my grandmother, who was a tough German woman. And she never really found anything very nice to say very often. But it got to Grandma, and Grandma said, "Kristi, say yes as much as you can, because so many times as a mom, you have to say no." But I remember that striking me, thinking I didn't want to be a mom that said no. But I also applied it to everything in my life. I decided that I was going to say yes to things and try them, try new experiences, and just do them. I wanted to be a person who said yes. So if somebody asked me, even if my kids asked me when they were little, "You run down the driveway, let's race," I would race them. They wanted to jump in a mud puddle on Easter Sunday, we jumped in a mud puddle. But I also decided that I was going to show up and do things people asked me to do. That's how I ended up in politics. You all are going to have people ask you to do things. Run for office, support a candidate, write a check, write a bigger check. An even bigger one, right, Nick? Where's Nick?
That's right.
Huge, right? Huge. You need to do it. You need to say yes. It matters now more than ever. So number 1, don't be offended. Get over yourself. Number 2, say yes. The last thing I will tell you is be happy. Our country is desperate for some hope. And it only comes from the Republican Party. Listen, we should draw people. We should draw people to us by our optimism. People should want to be around you because you really do bring what makes this country special. So be happy. You woke up this morning in the United States of America. You're better off than 99.9% of the people in this world just because you woke up here in this country today. So be happy. I want to tell you one story that came years and years ago, 1775, during the Revolutionary War. There was a young man named Henry Knox. At the time, George Washington was leading the Continental Army. And there was 11,000 British soldiers that were in the city of Boston. And General Washington knew that as soon as the weather warmed up and winter broke, that they were going to be coming out of Boston and overwhelm his army, which was much smaller and underarmed, and that they would win the battle and go on to win the war. In fact, General Washington's men and soldiers all showed up with just their personal muskets. They had no cannons. They had no big ammunition to fight off the British, which they were very well armed and well equipped. General Washington knew that they were fighting a failing battle and did not know what he would do as soon as the weather broke to make sure that he could overwhelm them. Then a guy who owned a bookstore named Henry Knox came to him. He was 25 years old. And he came to General Washington with a proposal. He knew that a fort that was not nearby had 59 different pieces of artillery there that he thought could be useful to General Washington's army. Asked permission to go retrieve it. He took a band of volunteers, went to that fort, dismantled 59 pieces of weapons, put them onto a barge across Lake George and floated them 30 miles across Lake George. And right as they got to the other side, the lake froze over. They loaded them over onto carts, and those men moved 60 tons of metal 300 miles over frozen land and rivers to get them to General Washington, reassembled them before the weather broke. And when the British came out of Boston, General Washington's army was able to defeat them because of a guy who owned a bookstore, who didn't just sell books, he also read them and had studied a little bit about the art of war. Listen, that's American grit. We don't know what hard is. We haven't been through anything like our founders did, like people did that gave us this country. We're going to find out exactly how much we love this country and how much we want to give this gift of freedom to our kids and to our grandkids. Brian and I have 3 kids. You maybe don't know this if I haven't talked to you yet, but I've got a little granddaughter that's 8 months old. I do. What gets me up every day fighting for this country and doing this job is knowing that I don't want to give little Miss Adeline a country that didn't present her with as many opportunities as I got. So please don't lose sight of how badly we need you. We need inspirational victories here in New York. We need leaders that can move into positions of power that change people's lives forever. We are watching you. We are inspired by you. South Dakota's living the dream. I have less than 1,500 people in my entire state that are on unemployment right now. Do you know that? Everybody's working. Everybody's working. Everybody's happy. Our kids are in classrooms, and we've got the brightest future in the state. That can be New York's story too. Just don't lose sight of the fact that you need to get over yourselves. Say yes when you're asked to do whatever you need to do, and wake up and be happy. God bless you. Thank you so much for asking me to do this tonight. Have a wonderful evening.